Hello to my lovely listeners. I am very excited to be here today with at the time of this recording, the very pregnant and always super amazing Mallory Erickson, creator of the Power Partners Formula, host of the What the Fundraising podcast, and facilitator of the upcoming Fundraising.AI Virtual Global Summit. That's what we're going to talk about today. So, we know there's no doubt that AI has reshaped, continues to reshape industries and society. It holds incredible promises, but navigating the responsible AI, artificial intelligence landscape can be full of challenges. So the Fundraising.AI collaborative is focused on providing tools for organizations and AI practitioners to build, buy, and support responsible and trusted AI systems for fundraising purposes. And I'm Mallory, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me and for that warm welcome. I am so excited to be talking today.
Yes, so I'm really excited that you invited me to be involved with the 2023 Fundraising.AI Virtual Global Summit. It's happening October 23rd through 24. Just go to fundraising.ai. Wait, what is it? Fundraising.ai /summit, and you can register for free. This is billed as the largest gathering of nonprofit and for-profit professionals and organizations to explore the role of responsible AI in fundraising. So tell us a little bit how you came to be involved with the summit, your role as the facilitator and host.
Yes, it is
I mean, that's a lot.
it's a funny story. Nathan Chappelle has been really behind the scenes, like trying to build momentum around a responsible AI framework and collective for years. And I think there have been meetings for years about what does it look like for AI to be integrated responsibly into fundraising, into the nonprofit sector. When I was at AFP Icon this year, I got invited to a meeting that was hosted by him and Tim Sarantonio, and ChatGPT had recently exploded, and so the room was pretty full, and there was a lot of conversation around sort of like what needs to happen next, like what needs to happen in this moment to help steward the sector forward when it comes to the responsible use of AI in fundraising in particular. And so two priorities came out of that meeting. One was the creation of this responsible fundraising framework that got put out in July of this year, really led by Nathan with like 92 other contributors. There are 10 pillars associated with that. If you go to fundraising.ai, you can read more about that and check that out. The other priority that was identified was putting together a summit. And, I am very naive, and sometimes
I don't think so. I think people would beg to differ.
sometimes I'm very naive.
You're optimistic.
Optimistic. Or sometimes, what's that phrase? Like my eyes were bigger than my stomach. Like my desire often outpaces my like human capacity. And so when I was hearing a lot of the language that was happening in that meeting around AI and the use of AI, I didn't necessarily feel like the voice and the needs of the small and mid-sized nonprofits were fully represented in the room. And so I kept being like, what about this? Or how about this? Or how are small nonprofits supposed to make sense of that? And when it came to the summit in particular, it really felt like we need to meet people where they're at, and we need to understand that where people are at is a wide spectrum. And so I volunteered to help with the summit. And my one non-negotiable was that it was a collaborative from a sponsorship perspective, that it was tech providers really coming together, sort of putting their competitive natures aside and saying like, this is so important, and we're either going to all succeed together or we're all going to fail together around this. And so how can we come together and really protect and support the ecosystem together. And I wanted it to feel like it was grassroots led, that it really felt like in every way, I mean, in every way, from the sponsorship to having 6 different room hosts to, having a really diverse group of speakers, bringing together folks who have focused, community-centric fundraising folks with folks who have historically focused on donor-centric practices, like really like everybody in the room saying like this matters to everyone, and figuring out how you enter this conversation based on where you're at this moment in time. We have something for everyone. And so 4 months later, probably thousands of hours later, I don't even know at this point, I don't want to count,
Mhm.
we are 12 days away, which is
Amazing.
unbelievable. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yes. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to participate. So there is so much hype around AI, using AI in the sector. So just a couple of the ways, like you said, ChatGPT, we can use that to draft appeal letters. We can use predictive data analysis to better understand donor behavior and so much more. So in terms of the summit, like what do you see as the biggest opportunities for fundraisers? What are we going to be talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think there, what I hope the summit illuminates is both the opportunities that fundraisers aren't necessarily yet taking advantage of or
Mm.
integrating, and all the ways that they actually are already using AI that they might not realize. So I think there's this like, disconnect a little bit between like, oh, like, well, I don't really understand AI, so like not gonna start using it. And I'm sort of like, you're using
Hmm.
it. Like you're using Canva, you're using Grammarly, you're using predictive text in your
Even just
Gmail.
Gmail.
Yeah, exactly. And so one hope for me is not just what are the new things that we adopt, but the new awareness that we hold about the ways that we're currently using AI. And so that's like one thing that I hope, will come out of it. The other is that, I mean, I think generative AI, the like chat GPT side of AI is particularly exciting. It's interesting when there's the conversation, which we have a session on this in the summit around sort of like job protection and what does it
Mm.
mean? Like there's this whole conversation around like, are our jobs going to be taken over by AI? And I'm like sitting there thinking about the conversation in the nonprofit sector for years has been, you're wearing too many hats. So like, what if AI just like
Yeah.
took off some of your hats? Like not your job, but just like a few
Yeah.
of the hats, right? And so I think generative AI helping to create, kickstart copywriting, grant applications, like that, that piece is so beneficial. Gosh, what I would have done to have Chat GPT when I was
Oh.
doing grant applications and had to do word count, just word.
Word count. I love this. This was something I saw someone posted on LinkedIn because you've got the character count, the word count, and ChatGPT can just summarize it all.
And it's like, oh my gosh, like the hours I agonized over how to get the 500 word summary that I put in the last grant application into 250 words. And then you're
Oh
right.
my
Then all of a
God.
sudden it's like characters versus words, right? So I'm really excited about like the opportunities that ChatGPT, or not ChatGPT, but generative AI in all of its forms and all of its systems like help with that. I also think, data is overwhelming, and I am
Mm.
excited by all the different ways we, if we think about and use AI responsibly and ethically, and we are focused on, removing bias from AI, the ways that AI could help us see data that we can't see on our own just because of the
Mm.
sheer magnitude of big data. So that's like the other area that I feel like excited by, and the way that like affinity screening tools are growing, that we've historically called like wealth screening tools, but now we know that like wealth and generosity are not the same thing. And what we really want to be looking at is like affinity for our organization, closeness to our organization. And I think the ability for AI to start to help us understand how our donors are responding to certain behaviors that we're taking a little bit better, um, is going to open up a lot of opportunities.
So what advice do you have to those who may be excited about the possibilities and the potential of AI, but they are a little fearful of the consequences of getting it wrong.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, you'll notice that if you look at the agenda for the summit, how many times the word human appears in the agenda.
Yes, I did notice that actually. I really like that.
So we have a number of sessions that are really about the integration of like AI and humans and humanness.
Yes,
And so I think like this is not like how do we get the robots to start to fundraise for us? Like that is not what we're trying.
exactly. That's such a misconception. I know.
Right. And so I think should people be like have a certain level, like it's like I say this with Emmy, my daughter, my 4-year-old is
Hmm.
takes a while to warm up to new environments, and she is a cautious kid. And people sometimes are like, oh, like I don't know, want her to warm up more quickly than she is ready to.
Everyone wants kids to do things on their
I know,
schedule, and
I
it's
know.
very
And
frustrating.
I'm always just like, I love like that she is cautious and knows her body and knows herself and is like, it's like I think there's a healthy amount of fear. And I think there should be a healthy amount of fear around AI. I don't think that is actually
Hmm.
a bad thing. And I don't think the purpose of this conference is to be flippant about that either. Like, yes, this is there is a lot here and there is a lot at stake. And anytime and
There's a lot
change
we don't know.
general,
Hmm.
there's a lot we don't know. Change in general is overwhelming. So, like, if you feel fearful or overwhelmed, you're exactly where it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. You're exactly where most people are right now. And so,
Hmm.
the goal is not like, how do you come to this conference and leave ready to adopt like 25 new AI tools and like,
Yes.
right, like automate? It's
Hit
like,
the ground running and just let
yeah,
the robots do the fundraising. That's not the
no,
point.
no.
Hmm.
And actually, I would say that like I'm kind of focusing simultaneously on what's your takeaway in terms of enablement, improving your enablement in an area, and what's your takeaway in decreasing overwhelm in an area. I think those
Yes.
things sort of have to come together. Like it's like, yes, like AI kind of like sits right at this intersection of like something that could reduce overwhelm or cause more overwhelm. And so like how do we actually play in that space and give folks one way to step forward, either decreasing their overwhelm and the amount of shoulds that they're saying to themselves in their heads, or that helps enable their fundraising, because decreasing their overwhelm will also enable their fundraising.
I really like how you designed the summit. And when you invited me to be a session guide, you were explaining sort of your rationale. So I'm a session guide along with some amazingly fabulous colleagues like Kashana Palmer, Ria Wong, Clay Buck, Sabrina Walker Hernandez, and Dana Snyder. And you had said to me that you wanted fundraisers to see familiar faces and not just like tech gurus. So explain that to me. So who should be attending this conference?
Yeah. I mean, my hope is really that this conference feels like there's something for everyone, whether you are
Mm,
like, what the heck is AI? That you come to that 101 session about what the heck is AI and
mm-hmm.
what are the different applications and how have you been using it, to like the person who, to the bigger shops, nonprofits that are some maybe creating their own AI in house, and they can come to some of the like, um, regulatory sessions about how they should be responsibly building AI. Like there really is like the whole spectrum. And we're focused on fundraising particularly, but if you're a marketing or comms professional, like a lot of what we're talking about falls into your bucket. If you're an executive director, if you're just worried about that, like how to upskill in the age of AI and your own job and protection, there's something for you. So I really do think that it is for everyone. And then yeah, I really wanted a diverse group of trusted nonprofit coaches and consultants who I knew would help distill things for fundraisers in between sessions, ask the right questions of speakers, and be and like walk through this process with fundraisers and let them know that wherever they're at and however they're coming to one or five or all of the sessions of the conference, that they're exactly where they need to be, and that whatever takeaways they get are great, and that we're there to support them. I think the thing about selecting all of you guys is you show up for this sector consistently and in so many ways that are helpful and generous. And I feel like that's really important. This is the first gathering of its kind, and I don't want people to feel like it's some quick shiny object thing that then, there's no community around them to support them moving forward. And I think inviting you all to co-host with me to guide those different rooms was part of being like, look, like we've all got you in our different ways, and it's going to be okay.
I love that. It's going to be okay. I was looking at the session guides and I already felt like, okay, I can do this because I was really kind of feeling a little out of my element, but I feel like I have all of the necessary characteristics that would make an attendee at the summit successful, like curiosity. I'm interested. I'm a little skeptical, and I'm really trying to figure out what I can take away and what I can leave behind. And everyone, it seems, at the summit really is like a trusted resource and has the credibility in the sector, but also there's a lot of fundraisers. I'm also looking right now at the sessions. AI ethics is huge. What happens when we need to pivot? Like, what happens when we need to make changes? Like, it's scary, but let's all work together and do this, incorporating humans and AI solutions. There's just so many sessions that I think fundraisers of all stripes can really benefit from. And like you
Mm,
said, everybody in the sector that's interested in this. And it's the first time. So who knows what's going to happen? Like
yeah, totally.
let's just have like a fun time.
And I think we're all learning, like I think that,
Exactly.
like,
Exactly.
no, you don't need to come to this conference knowing everything. I'm going to be learning the entire conference. Like I think it's hilarious in certain ways that I'm hosting this because I do not consider myself particularly tech literate, tech comfortable. Like I feel the tension of overwhelm and enablement in my own work and in my own life when it comes to AI. And so I think my desire to host this was to say, if that's where you're at, like you are totally welcome here. This is not for tech professionals. This is not for the people who are, yeah, like this is for everyone. And so I think it's great. We're all going to be learning and exactly like show up curious, show up questioning things, show up a little skeptical, like this is an opportunity for us to push this sector forward. And we're not showing up to this with like, we have it all figured out. Nobody has this all figured out. We are learning together. And I think there was a real desire to launch this and invite people to this before we knew everything. And because we
Mm-hmm.
waited for that day was never going to happen. It's like
Mm-hmm.
things have been
You're
moving
never going to have all your ducks in a row with AI. It's
so.
constantly evolving and changing.
Yes, things were going to move so fast, even from when we announced the summit to now, things have changed in the landscape. And so I think, this is a practice in um, imperfect change management in a rapidly evolving space. And
Mm-hmm.
I hope that we're leading with grace and openness and curiosity, and being really humble about the fact that, yeah, we're doing the best we can with this. And this is the first one. And I can't wait for people's feedback around, I wish there was more of this, or I wish we heard more about that, or we could really use a resource around this. Like we need community contribution. And this is just the first opportunity to have it.
All right, one last question. What do you hope that people will take away from the summit?
Ooh, I mean, I think back to what I was saying before, like, I hope they take away like one thing that they could maybe try. And I
Mm-hmm.
hope it makes them feel a little more open to to trying something new. I want them to feel open to, I think AI presents an opportunity for our sector to play with change. And we are often really resistant to change in this sector, even though we are responsible for change. But a lot of our like perfectionist tendencies and just the high stakes of the work that we do, often we get stuck in best practices that are mediocre.
Or best practices that are not designed for the nonprofit sector.
100%, right? Yeah, or best practices that are not even the best, like all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think AI opens up this really interesting potential conversation around like it can disrupt all of that. It could. And so what if we just started to play a little bit more, and in ways that are safe, and with privacy and all of those things intact, but then where's the opportunity for this to help us maybe as a sector break out of the ways things have always been that aren't serving us, and help us navigate new ways of doing things that support us both in terms of how effectively we fundraise, but also how we feel as fundraisers and how manageable our jobs feel. My hope would be that what everybody takes away is something that reduces their level of overwhelm and burnout and makes them more hopeful about being a fundraiser moving forward.
Love it. Okay, that's the mic drop. So, October 23rd through 24th. And at the time of this recording, I'm going to put this out today. It's 12 days until, it's 13 days until
Okay.
it's whatever it is, 12, 13 days, October 23rd. It's all online, completely free, fundraising.AI/summit to sign up. I will put all the links in the show notes. Any of my social media, you'll be seeing it. Follow Mallory on her socials, and you'll be seeing it on her email and her socials. Thanks so much, Mallory. I'm so excited for this inaugural summit.
Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm so grateful.